Welcome to Sonic Fit Learning to Sight Sing video series. We are in Part 2, Introduction to Rhythm, Video 4, Ties, Slurs, and Dots. In music notation, curved lines are used for both slurs and ties. The slur connects notes of different pitch. It indicates that the notes are to be connected smoothly with no break between them. A tie is a curved line that connects notes of the same pitch. It indicates to sustain the sound continuously through the total duration of all the notes tied together. Here are several examples of slurs. Note that when more than two notes are slurred, the first and last note might be the same. Because the notes in between are different, it is still a slur. In a tie, think of the second note being tied to the first, indicating to hold the pitch of the first note for the duration of the first note plus the duration of the second. Ties often go across a bar line. These examples are taken from a Sonic Fit worksheet. Similar questions are on the quiz for this tutorial. Identify each arched line as a slur or a tie. Pause the video for extra time to answer the questions. The slurs will now turn red, leaving the ties black. A dot after a note is shorthand for a tied note that is half the duration of the first note. Let's first consider the dotted half note. The given note value is the half note. Half of a half note is a quarter note. The dot on the half note represents a tie to a quarter note. If the quarter note is getting the beat, then the half note would be 2 counts and the quarter note would be 1 count, making the dotted half note 3 counts. Put another way, dots add half of the value of the note which they follow. Let's consider again a half note in common time. The half note gets 2 beats, and half of 2 beats is 1 beat, so adding 1 to the original 2 makes 3 beats. In common time, a dotted quarter note is 1 1/2 beats. That's 1 for the quarter note and a half for the dot. Dots also occur on rests. Here is a dotted quarter rest. The timeline of note values is a helpful reference to understand dotted note durations. Here are beat durations of all of our notes in common time. Note that the dotted half note is 3 beats, right between a half note and a whole note, and that the dotted quarter note at 1 1/2 beats is right between a quarter note and a half note. Count singing with slurs only changes the phrasing of the music. Connect notes under the slur to each other like this: 1 and 2, 3 and 4. In count singing, when you encounter a tie, you treat it the same as if it wasn't there. When writing counts, put a dash to connect the tied notes. When singing on words, the tied note would just be sustained from the previous note. In this case, the tied note is on beat 2, and the 8th note after it is on the and of 2. 1, 2, and 3, 4. In this example, the first 2 notes could be combined into a dotted quarter note. It is treated the same way. Sing the dot on beat 2 and the following 8th note on the and of 2. When you encounter a dotted note, it may be helpful to convert it to a tied note. In this example, the first note begins on beat 1 and lasts all of beat 1. The next available beat is beat 2. The second note starts on beat 2 and lasts for 1 1/2 beats. That would be all of beat 2 and the first half of beat 3. It may help to look at the dotted note rewritten as a tie to see this. The first of the 2 8s, the one that is really the dot on the previous note, goes at the beginning of beat 3, and the second eighth goes on the and of 3. It may be helpful to draw beams to represent full beats. The second note lasts all of the second beat, plus half of beat 3 for the dot. The next available metric placement is the and of 3 for the following eighth. You may now test your comprehension of this material by taking the quiz for this video.